Hi guys, let's continue with part 4 of the 38th UPSC Prelims 2020 test series from Vision IAS. Now let's come to the 76th question, that is, consider the following statements with respect to the National Electronic Tool Collection and ETC. It has been developed by the National Payments Corporation of India to meet the electronic tolling requirements of the Indian market. Number 2, it does not offer interoperability operations on a national scale covering all toll plazas. Number 3, it aims at reducing fuel consumption and thereby reducing air pollution. Which of the statements given above are correct? So the correct answer is C. So the correct answer is C, that is 1 and 3. So it's C, that is 1 and 3. National Payments Corporation of India (NPCI) has developed the National Electronic Toll Collection (NETC) program to meet the electronic tolling requirements of the Indian market. Hence, statement 1 is correct. It offers an interoperable nationwide toll payment solution, including clearing house services for settlement and dispute management. And ETC enables a customer to use their FASTag as a payment mode on any of the toll plazas, irrespective of who has acquired the toll plaza. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. FASTag is a device that employs radio frequency identification (RFID) technology for making toll payments directly while the vehicle is in motion. FASTag RFID tag is affixed on the windscreen of the vehicle and enables a customer to make the toll payments directly from the account which is linked to FASTag. FASTag offers the convenience of cashless payment along with benefits like savings on fuel and time, as the customer does not have to stop at the toll plaza. Sub-goal of Government of India, number 1, is electronification of retail payments. Number 2, reduce air pollution by reducing the congestion around toll plaza. Number 3, reduce fuel consumption. Number 4, reduce cash handling. Number 5, enhance audit control of centralizing user account. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to NPCI. The National Payments Corporation of India (NPCI) is a pioneer organization in the field of retail payments in India. It is a body promoted by RBI and has presently 10 core promoter banks: State Bank of India, Punjab National Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda, Union Bank of India, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Citibank, and HSBC. It has been incorporated as a Section 25 company under Companies Act and is aimed to operate for the benefit of all the member banks and their customers. The vision of NPCI being able to provide citizens of our country anytime, anywhere payment services which are simple, easy to use, safe and secure, fast and also cost effective. NPCI aims to operate for the benefit of all the member banks and the common man at large. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 77. With reference to National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems (NPCA), consider the following statements. Number 1. It is a centrally sponsored plan for the conservation of lakes and wetlands. Number 2. It delegates the primary responsibility for the conservation on state governments. Number 3. It is under the overall supervision of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Which of the statements given above are correct? So the correct answer is D. It is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems was launched after the merger of National Lake Conservation Plan, that is NLCP, and National Wetlands Conservation Program, that is NWCP. It is a centrally sponsored scheme for conserving aquatic ecosystems, namely lakes and wetlands. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Conservation and management of mangroves and coral reefs shall continue to be guided by the centrally sponsored scheme entitled Conservation and Management of Mangroves and Coral Reefs. The MOEF and CC is responsible for overall coordination of NPCA. NPCA is implemented by designated division of the ministry. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Among others, its functioning include the followings: providing national policy framework for conservation and sustainable management of wetlands, providing financial assistance on cost-sharing basis for implementation of activities identified in the integrated management plans. The primary responsibility for the conservation and sustainable management of wetlands will be with the state governments or union territory administration. Hence, statement 2 is correct. The wetlands authorities within states or union territories created as per provisions of Wetlands Conservation and Management Rules 2017 will be nodal agency for all matters concerned with implementation of NPCA. The composition and functions of state or union territory wetlands authority are laid down in the said rules. Annexure 3. The National Wetlands Committee (NWC) constituted under the provisions of the Wetlands Conservation and Management Rules 2017 shall be the nodal advisory body for NPCA. Now let's come to question number 78. Consider the following statements with respect to nominated members of a state legislative council. Number 1. A person to be qualified for the governor's nomination, he or she must be an elector for an assembly constituency in the concerned state. Number 2. 1 by 12 of the total number of members of Legislative Council are nominated by the governor. Number 3. A member is eligible for renomination any number of times. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is A. That is 3 only. That is, a member is eligible for renomination any number of times. The composition of legislative councils is provided under Article 171. The members of the Legislative Council are indirectly elected. The maximum strength of the council is fixed at one-third of the total strength of the assembly and the minimum strength is fixed at 40. Of the total number of members of a legislative council, 1/6 are nominated by the governor from amongst persons who have a special knowledge or practical experience of literature, science, art, cooperative movement, and social service. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Qualification for membership of a legislative council. A person shall not be qualified to be chosen to fill a seat in the legislative council of a state to be filled by election unless he is an elector for any assembly constituency in that state. A person shall not be qualified to be chosen to fill a seat in the legislative council of a state to be filled by nomination by the governor unless he is ordinarily resident in the state. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. A resident individual will be treated as a resident and ordinarily resident in India during the year if he satisfies the following conditions. Number 1. He is resident in India for at least 2 years out of 10 years immediately preceding the relevant year. Number 2. His stay in India is for 730 days or more during 7 years immediately preceding the relevant year. The Legislative Council is a continuing chamber, but one-third of its members retire on the expiration of every second year. So a member continues as such for 6 years. The vacant seats are filled up by fresh elections and nominations by governor at the beginning of every third year. The retiring members are also eligible for re-election and renomination any number of times. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to question number 79. Consider the following statements with reference to Mahajanapadas during the ancient Indian history period. Number 1. Mahajanapadas started to form in the 3rd century BC for the first time. Number 2. The use of iron tools and weapons was an important factor that led to the rise of the Mahajanapadas. Number 3. Majority of the Mahajanapadas were situated north of Vindhyas. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. That is 2 and 3. The 6th century BC was not only a period of socio-economic and religious development, but it also witnessed new political developments. In the later Vedic period, as we have seen earlier, people had started agriculture which made them settle down at the particular place. These permanent settlements led to foundation of Janapadas or territorial states under the control of the king. In the 6th century BC, the main area of political activity gradually shifted from western UP to eastern UP and Bihar. This region was not only fertile on account of better rainfall and river systems, but was also closer to iron production centers. The use of better iron tools and weapons enabled some territorial states to become very large, and they came to be called Mahajanapadas. Most of them were situated north of Vindhyas, between Bihar in the east to the northwest frontier of the subcontinent. Most of these states were monarchical in nature, but some of them called Jana Sangha. So most of these states are monarchical in nature, but some of them, called Gana Sangha, had an oligarchical system of governance. In this system, unlike monarchies, there, where a hereditary king rules, administration was run by an elected king with the help of a large council or assemblies comprising heads of all important clans and families. This system was certainly more democratic than monarchy, though the common man had no participation in the administration. The political fight among these Mahajanapadas led ultimately to one of them, namely Magad, to emerge as the most powerful state and the center of a vast empire. The earliest important ruler of Magad was the king Bimbisara, who ruled for 52 years from 544 BC to 492 BC. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 80. Which of the following correctly describes the phenomenon of storm surge? Number A, it is the rise in seawater level caused solely by a storm. Number B, it is the rise in local temperatures due to prevailing hot and dry wind over the plains. Number C, it is the rapid lightning strikes caused by the cloud burst. Number D, none of the above. So the answer is A. That is, so the answer is A. It is the rise in seawater level caused solely by a storm. Storm surge is the abnormal rise in seawater level during a storm. Hence, option A is the correct answer. It is measured as the height of the water above the normal predicted astronomical tide. The surge is caused primarily by a storm's winds pushing water onshore. The amplitude of the storm surge at any given location depends on factors such as orientation of the coastline with the storm track, the intensity, size, and speed of the storm, etc. The Lu is a strong, gusty, dusty, hot and dry summer wind from the west which blows over the western Indo-Gangetic Plain region of North India and Pakistan. It is especially strong in the months of May and June. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 81. In the context of the cultural history of India, the Kulhadar group refers to number A group of miniature paintings, number B, a group of martial dance artists from eastern India, number C, volumes of Jain canonical literature, number D, ceremonial group associated with regional theatre in Rajasthan. So the answer is A. That is a group of miniature paintings. The finest examples of painting belonging to the first half of the 16th century are represented by a group of miniatures generally designated as the Kulhadhar group. This group includes illustrations of the Chorapan Chasika, 50 Verses of the Thief by Bilhan, the Gita Govinda, the Bhagavata Purana, and Ragamala. The style of these miniatures is marked by the use of vibrant, contrasting colors, vigorous and angular drawing, transparent drapery, and the appearance of conical capes, that is kulha, on which turbans are worn by the male figures. An example of the Chora Panchasika miniature shows Champavati standing near a lotus pond. This miniature belongs to the N.C. Mehta collection in Bombay. It was executed in the first quarter of the 6th century, probably in Mewar. The style of the painting is purely indigenous, derived from the earlier tradition of the Western Indian art, and does not show any influence of either the Persian or the Mughal style of paintings. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 82. Which of the following is or are correct with reference to Ayurveda? Number 1. According to Ayurveda, the human body is composed of only three fundamental elements: Vayu, that is air, Jala, that is water, and Prithvi, that is earth. Number 2. Charaka and Sushruta were practitioners of Ayurveda in ancient India. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the answer is B. So it's B, that is 2 only. Ayurveda is a well-known system of life science that was developed in ancient India. Ayurveda means science of life. It deals with each and every aspect of human life. Its first objective is to maintain the health and happiness, while the next is to manage and restore the status of health and productive state of mind. Ayurveda offers wonderful tools for better lifestyle. It gives equal importance to our body, mind, and soul, therefore works with holistic approach. Life in Ayurveda is conceived as the union of body, senses, mind, and soul. The living man is a conglomeration of three humors, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Seven basic tissues: Rasa, Rakta, Mansa, Meda, Ashthi, Maza, and Shukra, and the waste products Mala of the body, such as feces, urine, and sweat. Thus, the total body matrix comprises of humors, the tissues, and the waste products of the body. According to Ayurveda, all objects in the universe, including human body, are composed of five basic elements, Pancha Mahabhutas, namely Akash, ether, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Jal, water, and Prithvi, earth. There is a balanced condensation of these elements in different proportions to suit the needs and requirements of different structures and functions of the body matrix and its parts. The two famous practitioners of Ayurveda in ancient India were Charaka, 1st and 2nd centuries CE, and Sushruta, 4th century CE. Charak Samhita, written by Charak, is a remarkable book on medicine. In his treatise Sushruta Samhita, Sushruta speaks about elaborate surgical procedures. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 83. In the context of the British rule in India in the 19th century, the term White Mutiny refers to: number A. The agitation by British traders against the monopoly of East India Company on trade in India. Number B, the opposition by the British officials to the proposal of including Indians in the senior positions in civil services. Number C, the unrest within European forces due to transfer of their allegiance from the East India Company to the Queen. And number D, the revolt by the tea planters of northeast India against the British policies. So the answer is C. So the answer would be C. That is the unrest within European forces due to transfer of their allegiance from the East India Company to the Queen. So, in the wake of the transfer of power from the British East India Company to the British Crown, a section of European forces employed under the company resented the move that required the three presidency armies to transfer their allegiance from the defunct company to the Queen, as in the British Army. These resentment resulted in some unrest, termed as White Mutiny. Prior to the 1861, there were two separate military forces in India operating under the British rule. One was the Queen's Army and the other comprised the units of the East India Company. The company's troops received bata, extra allowances. So bata, it means extra allowances of pay to cover various expenditures related to operations in areas other than the home territories. With the transfer of power, the bata was stopped. So Lord Canning's legalistic interpretation of the laws surrounding the transfer also infuriated the affected white soldiers. So that's how White Mutiny came into being. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 84. In the context of Indian polity, which of the following are followed in India? Number 1. Doctrine of the basic structure of the Constitution. Number 2. Cabinet form of government. Number 3. Complete separation of legislature and executive. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 2 only. In the Keshavananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court laid down a new doctrine of the basic structure or basic features of the Constitution. It ruled that the constituent power of Parliament under Article 368 does not enable it to alter the basic structure of the Constitution. From the various judgments, features like independent judiciary, secularism, rule of law, free and fair elections, parliamentary system, etc. emerged as the part of basic structure. Hence, option 1 is correct. The form of government in which the executive is selected from among the members of the legislature and is responsible to the legislature is called parliamentary government. A parliamentary government is also known as the cabinet form of government because the cabinet is the real executive in it. It is also called responsible government since the cabinet always remains responsible to the legislature for its activities. Hence, option 2 is correct. The term separation of powers was coined by Montesquieu, an 18th century French social and political philosopher, in his publication The Spirit of the Laws. It forms the basis of the American constitutional structure. Article 1 of American Constitution vests the legislative power of the Congress. Article 2 of American Constitution vests executive power in the President, and Article 3 of American Constitution vests judicial power in the Supreme Court. The framers of the American Constitution believed that the principle of separation of powers would help to prevent the rise of tyrannical government by making it impossible for a single group of persons to exercise too much power. Separation of powers is also a feature of Indian Constitution. However, it is much more flexible as compared to American Constitution, which is watertight in character. Some of the common manifestations of separation of powers in India include powers, privileges and immunities to the MPs, immunity from judicial scrutiny into the proceedings of the House, etc. On the other hand, there are some exceptions to this rule. For example, the executive is a part of the legislature. Power of the executive to formulate delegated legislation, power of president to issue ordinance, etc. Hence, option 3 is not correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 85. The peninsular region of India does not have any well-defined cold weather season because of number 1, moderating influence of the sea, number 2, proximity to the equator, number 3, absence of perennial rivers. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So for 85, the answer is A. A, that is 1 and 2 only. The peninsular region of India does not have any well-defined cold weather season. There is hardly any seasonal change in the distribution pattern of the temperature in coastal areas due to the following reasons. Number 1, moderating influence of the sea because of the ocean absorbs heat when the air is warm and releases heat when the air is cool. Hence, option 1 is correct. The part lying south of the Tropic of Cancer falls in the tropical zone. The tropical zone, being nearer to the equator, experiences high temperatures throughout the year with a small daily and annual range. Hence, option 2 is correct. For example, the mean maximum temperature for January at Thiruvananthapuram. Okay, so the mean maximum temperature for January at Thiruvananthapuram is as high as 31 degrees Celsius, and for June it is 29.5 degrees Celsius. Temperatures at the hills of Western Ghats remain comparatively low. The absence or presence of the perennial river does not have any significant impact on the temperatures experienced by the region. Hence, option 3 is not correct. Now let's come to question number 86. With reference to ecological connectivity, consider the following statements. It is the unimpeded movement of species and the flow of natural processes that sustain life on Earth. It enhances the resilience of ecosystems to environmental changes such as climate change. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C, that is both 1 and 2. Ecological connectivity is the unimpeded movement of species and the flow of natural processes that sustain life on Earth. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Connectivity includes both structural connectivity, that is, the physical arrangements of disturbance or patches, and functional connectivity, that is the movement of individuals across contours of disturbance or among patches. The loss and fragmentation of habitat are the key threats to migratory animals across the world. They are also considered to be the greatest threats to biodiversity worldwide, with climate change exacerbating these effects. Loss of connectivity has impacted the ecological integrity of the entire global ecological network. It has affected ecological mechanisms such as nutrient and energy flows, predator prey relationships, pollination, seed dispersal, demographic rescue, etc. Restoring ecological connections will enhance resilience to environmental changes such as climate change and support nature and people. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Recently concluded Convention on Migratory Species CMS COP13 has highlighted the importance of ecological connectivity to better protect migratory wildlife and their habitats. It has called for the concept of connectivity to be integrated into the new global biodiversity framework, which will be adopted at the end of next year in China. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 87. With reference to the independent regional kingdoms in the 18th century India, consider the following peers. We have kingdom and established by, that is its founders. The first one is Kerala, established by Martanda Varma. Number 2, Awadh, Safdar Jung. Number 3, Bengal, Murshid Kali Khan. Which of the peers given above are correctly matched? So the answer is C. Answer is C, that is 1 and 3. The founder of the independent principality of Awadh was Sadat Khan. So it's not Safdar Jung, but it's Sadat Khan. Hence, number 2, the peer number 2 is wrong. Popularly known as Burhan ul Mulk, Sadat Khan was a Shia. He had joined in a conspiracy against the Syed brothers, which resulted in his being given an increased mansab. Later, driven out of the court, he was prompted to found a new independent state. Sadat Khan committed suicide due to pressure from Nadir Shah, who was demanding a huge booty from him. He was succeeded by Safdar Jung as the Nawab of Awadh. So the founder of Awadh was Sadat Khan, who is popularly known as Burhan ul Mulk. Now let's come to Murshid Kali Khan. Was the founder of the independent state of Bengal, hence peer 3 is correct. He was a capable ruler and made Bengal a prosperous state. He was succeeded in 1727 by his son, Sujauddin. His successor, Sarfaraz Khan, was killed in 1740 by Alivardi Khan, the deputy governor of Bihar at Gheria, who assumed power and made himself independent of the Mughal emperor by giving yearly tribute. Martanda Varma established an independent state of Kerala with Travancore as his capital after defeating Dutch. So peer number 1 is correct. He extended the boundaries of his state from Kanyakumari to Cochin. He made efforts to organize his army along the Western model and adopted various measures to develop his state. Now let's come to question number 88. Recently, comet Neowise was witnessed in different parts of the world. In this context, which of the following statements is not correct with respect to comets? Number A. They are objects made up of ice, rock, and dust orbiting the Sun. Number B. Their orbits intersect with the orbit of the planets. Number C. They always orbit the Sun in the same direction as planet Earth. Number D. The tail of a comet always points away from the Sun. So the correct answer is C. So the statement which is wrong with respect to comet is that they always orbit the Sun in the same direction as planet Earth. Comets are cosmic snowballs of frozen gases, rock, and dust that orbit the Sun. When frozen, they are the size of a small town. When a comet's orbit brings it close to the Sun, it heats up and spews dust and gases into a giant glowing hat larger than most planets. They can be visible in the night sky with naked eyes. Hence, option 1 is correct. A comet's tail is its most defining characteristic. It can be long enough to span the distance between the Earth and the Sun, and it always points away from the Sun, no matter which direction the comet is traveling. That's because it's created by the solar wind, which is blowing gas away from the vapor cloud that surrounds the nucleus. Hence, option D is correct. All the comets do not always orbit the Sun in the same direction as planet Earth. For example, Halley's comet revolves around the Sun clockwise, while the Earth revolves around the Sun anti-clockwise. Hence, statement C is not correct. Their orbits intersect with the orbit of the other planets. Hence, statement B is correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 89. In the context of genetic engineering, what do you understand by the term biolistics? Number A. It is a method of directly shooting DNA fragments into the host cells using high-speed article bombardment. Number B. It refers to the use of pathogen vectors to infect host cells and transfer the recombinant DNA into host cells. Number C. It is a microinjection method in which recombinant DNA is directly injected into the nucleus of an animal cell. Number D. It is a method to produce multiple copies of the DNA of interest by in vitro synthesis using enzymes. So the correct answer is A. It is a method of directly shooting DNA fragments into host cells using high-speed particle bombardment. In recombinant DNA technology, In recombinant DNA technology, DNA molecules are formed by laboratory methods of genetic recombination, such as molecular cloning, to bring together genetic material from multiple sources, creating sequences that would not otherwise be found in the genome. It involves the following basic steps. Number one, identification of DNA with desirable genes. Number two, introduction of the identified DNA into the host. Number three, maintenance of introduced DNA in the host and transfer of the DNA to its progeny. So, biolistics is a method for the delivery of nucleic acid, DNA, or RNA molecules to host cells by high speed particle bombardment. By coating particles of a heavy metal, gold or tungsten, with a gene of interest and firing these micro-projectiles into cells using mechanical force and integration of desired genetic information can be induced into cells. Gene gun or biolistic particle. So, gene gun or biolistic particle delivery systems are mostly used with plant cells. However, there is much potential use in humans and other animals as well. Hence, option A is the correct answer. In a method known as microinjection, recombinant DNA is directly injected into the nucleus of an animal cell. Another method uses disarmed pathogen vectors which, when allowed to infect the cell, transfer the recombinant DNA into the host. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 90. Consider the following pairs. We have lake and the type of lake. The first one is Sambhar Lake, Oxbow Lake, Sonar Lake, Tectonic Lake, Loktak Lake, Andorhik Lake, Vambanath Lake, Backwater Lake. Which of the pairs given above is or are correctly matched? So the correct answer is C. That is 4 only. A lake is a body of water of considerable size localized in a basin that is surrounded by land apart from a river or other outlet that serves to feed or drain the lake. Lake can be classified based on the nature of formation as follows. We have got crater and caldera lakes. During a volcanic explosion, the top of the cone may be blown off, leaving behind a natural hollow called a crater. This may be enlarged by subsidence into a caldera. In dormant or extinct volcanoes, rain falls straight into the crater or caldera, which has no superficial outlet and forms a crater or caldera lake. Examples: Lonar in Maharashtra and Krakatau in Indonesia. Now let's come to tectonic lakes. So this Lonar Lake, it's not a tectonic lake, but the Lonar Lake is a crater and caldera lake. So number 2 is wrong. Due to the warping, simple deformation. So what are these tectonic lakes? Due to the warping, that is simple deformation, or subsidence, that is sliding downwards, or bending, or fracturing, that is splitting of the Earth's crust, tectonic depressions occur. Such depressions give rise to lakes of immense sizes and depth. They include Lake Titicaca and the Caspian Sea. Now let's come to the next form of lake, that is endorheic lakes. Some lakes do not have a natural outflow and lose water solely by evaporation or underground seepage or both. They are termed endorheic lakes. For example, Sambhar Lake. So, Loktak Lake is not an endorheic lake. So, 3 is wrong. And Sambhar Lake is an endorheic lake, and so 1 is wrong too. Now let's come to backwaters lakes. They are brackish lagoons and lakes lying parallel to the sea coast. The backwaters have a unique ecosystem where fresh water from the rivers meet the seawater from the sea. Eta Modi Lake and Vambanet Lake. So Vambanet Lake is a backwater lake. So pair number 4 is correct. So Astamodi Lake and Vambanat Lake are some of the examples of backwater lakes. Let's come to Oxbow Lake. It is a U-shaped lake that forms when a wide meander of a river is cut off, creating a freestanding body of water. So, Wooler Lake and Loktak Lake in Manipur are some of the examples. So, Loktak Lake is a Oxbow Lake and it's not an endorheic lake. Now let's come to the last type of lake, that is cirque lakes or stands. Cirque is a hollow basin cut into a mountain ridge. It has steep sided slope on 3 sides, and open end on one side and a flat bottom. When the ice melts, the cirque may develop into a tarn lake. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 91. Why is a species called Cysticerca gregaria often mentioned in news? Number A, it is an invasive species that has affected natural vegetation of the Western Ghats. Number B, these are crop-devouring, short-horned desert locusts that invaded India recently. Number C, these are species that tend to increase the biodiversity in the area in which they grow. Number D, it refers to a species of civet endemic to Southeast Asia. So the answer is B. So the answer is B. These are crop-devouring, short-horned desert locusts that invaded India recently. So the desert locust, Cysticerca gregaria, is a short-horned grasshopper that is innocuous while it is in a solitary phase and moving about independently. These winged insects differ from normal hoppers and become dangerous only when their populations build up rapidly and the close physical contact in crowded conditions trigger behavioral changes. Hence, option B is the correct answer. They then enter the gregarious phase by grouping into bands and forming swarms that can travel great distances up to 150 km daily, while eating up every bit of vegetation on the way. If not controlled at the right time, these insect swarms can threaten the food security of countries. Kenya is already reporting its worst locust outbreak in 70 years, while Ethiopia and Somalia have not seen one this bad in quarter of a century. Large and aggressive swarms of these crop-devouring, short-horned insects have invaded large areas of western and north India. In addition to the above-mentioned desert locust, there are 3 other types of locust found in India. They are number 1, migratory locust, number 2, Bombay locust, number 3, tree locust. Of all the 4, desert locust is the most destructive to the vegetation. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 92. In which of the following applications NAVIC Navic satellite system can be used? Number 1, launch vehicle trajectory calculation. Number 2, groundwater level measurement. Number 3, vehicle tracking. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. D, that is 1, 2 and 3. Navigation with Indian Constellation. Navic is the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System IRNSS, developed by Indian Space Research Organization ISRO. It is an independent regional navigation system designed to provide accurate position information service to users in India as well as the region extending up to 1,500 km from its boundary, which is its primary service area. IRNSS is envisaged to provide 2 types of services, namely Standard Positioning Service SPS and Restricted Service RS, and provides a position accuracy of better than 20 meter in the primary service area. The IRNSS system consists of ground segment, space segment and user segment. Now let's come to its applications. Number 1. With the satellite constellation established, Navic system is now fully available for position, navigation and timing solution. Navic signal can be extensively used in a variety of civil and commercial activities related to land transportation, aviation, maritime mapping, surveying and geodesy, scientific research, timing and telecommunications, etc. And its next application is Navic vehicle tracking. Navigation with Indian Constellation. Navic-based vehicle tracking system developed by India has been mandated to be equipped in all commercial vehicles. The third application would be Navic in launched vehicles. Navic-based trajectory tracking has already become the standard practice for all PSLV and GSLV Mark III missions. The fourth application is Navic messaging service. Using the Navic messaging service along with support from Indian National Centre for Ocean Information Services INCOIS, Navic messaging services NMR were developed, which transmit alerts messages such as cyclone, high wave, etc. and provide information on potential fishing zone for the fishermen venturing into deep sea. The last application is pilot project for satellite-based groundwater level monitoring system as various remote locations across India was carried out. ISRO has developed a proof of concept where Navic is used for time stamping of ground water level measurements at each location. Question number 93. Global learning and observations to benefit the environment, that is GLOBE. GLOBE, is an initiative of number A, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, number B, Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, number C, European Space Agency, ESA, number D, Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos. So the correct answer is A, that is NASA. The Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment, that is the GLOBE program, is an international science and education program that provides students and the public worldwide with the opportunity to participate in data collection and scientific process and contribute meaningfully to our understanding of the Earth system and global environment. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, and the United Nations Environmental Program agreed to work together on the promotion and implementation of global learning and observations to benefit the environment, that is the globe, and UN environments activist. Okay, so the NASA and the United Nations Environmental Program agreed to work together on the promotion and implementation of global learning and observations to benefit the environment, that is the globe, and UN environments activities. Hence, it was announced by the US government on Earth Day in 1994. GLOBE launched its worldwide implementation in 1995. It will celebrate 25 years of existence in 2020. Now let's come to its vision: a worldwide community of students, teachers, scientists, and citizens working together to better understand, sustain, and improve Earth's environment at local, regional, and global scales. So, what is its mission? It's to promote the teaching and learning of science, enhance environmental literacy and stewardship, and promote scientific discovery. Now let's come to the next question. In the context of India, in the later half of the 18th century, the Monarias rose in revolt against which of the following powers? Number A, the rulers of Travancore. Number B, the Ahom kings of Assam. Number C, the Nizam of Hyderabad. Number D, the Talukdars of Awadh. So the answer is B. The answer is B, that is the Ahom kings of Assam. The revolt of the Mauryaas in 1769 was a potent challenge to the authority of Ahom kings of Assam. The Mauryaas were low-caste peasants who followed the teachings of Aniruddha from 1553 to 1624, and their rise was similar to that of other low-caste groups in North India. Aniruddha is one of the prominent Vaishnava preceptors of Assam of the post-Sankardeva period. Their revolts weakened the Ahoms and opened the doors for others to attack the region. For instance, in 1792, the king of Darang, Krishna Narayan, assisted by his band of Burkandas, the abolished soldiers of the Muslim armies and jamindars. So, along with his band, or assisted by his band of Burkandas, he revolted. To crush these revolts, the Ahom ruler had to request for British help. The Mohammadians made Bhatiapar their headquarters. Rangpur, now in Bangladesh, and Jorhat were the most affected region. Although the home kingdom survived the rebellion, the weakened kingdom fell to a Burmese invasion and finally came under British rule. Hence, option B is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 95. Which of the following tributaries of the Indus River originate in India? So the first one is Satluj, number 2, Bias, number 3, Kabul, number 4, Nubra, number 5, Kuram. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is B. So the correct answer is B. That is 2 and 4 only. 2 and 4 only. That is Bias and Nubra. Tributaries of Indus River. The Indus receives a number of Himalayan tributaries such as Shyok, the Gilgit, the Jaskar, the Bunza, the Hunza, the Nubra, the Shigar, the Gasting, and the Dras. So the Indus receives a number of Himalayan tributaries such as Shyok, the Gilgit, the Jaskar, the Hunza, the Nubra, the Shigar, the Gasting, and the Dras. The other important tributaries of joining the right bank of the Indus are Kuram, the Tochi, the Gomal, the Vobua, and the Sangar. Nubra River. It is a river in the Nubra Valley of Ladakh in India. It is a tributary of the Shyok River, a part of the Indus River system, and originates from the Siachen Glacier, the second longest glacier in the world. Kabul River. The Kabul River, the classical Kofes, is a 700 kilometer 430 miles long river that starts in the Sanglak range of the Hindu Kush mountains in Afghanistan and ends in the Indus River near Attock in Pakistan. Now next is Kuram River. It originates from watershed of Ko, a Sofed in Kuram district, flows through North Waziristan district, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So it's from the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan, and joins River Indus near Isakhel. Then next we have Bias River. It is another tributary of Indus originating from Bias Kund near Rohtang Pass at an elevation of 4,000 meter above the mean sea level. Next we have Satluj River. It originates in the Raksas Tal near Mansarovar at an altitude of 4,555 meter in Tibet, where it's known as Langchen Khambap. So now let's come to the next question, that is question number 96. Consider the following statements with respect to the provision of a reservation for scheduled caste in the government services promotions. Number 1. Reservation in promotion is a fundamental right. Number 2. Before providing reservation, states have to collect quantifiable data showing inadequacy of representation of scheduled caste in public services. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. That is 2 only. Article 16 provides for equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters of employment or appointment to any office under the state. So to any office under the state. No citizen can be discriminated against or be ineligible for any employment or office under the state on grounds of only religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, or residence. Article 16, Clause 4 provides that the state can make reservations in matters of appointment and promotion in favor of the SCs and STs if they are not adequately represented in the services of the state. Recently, the Supreme Court has ruled that a reservation in promotion is not a fundamental right, and the states cannot be compelled to make laws in this regard for SCs and STs. The order further adds that the state is not bound to make a reservation for SCs and STs in matters of promotions. Hence, Statement 1 is not correct. However, if the state wishes to exercise its discretion and make such provision, it has to collect quantifiable data showing inadequacy of representation of the class in public services. The judgment reads, okay, that's why statement 2 is correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 97. Recently, India and World Bank have signed an agreement for the MSME Emergency Response Program. Its primary objective is to number A, support increased flow of finance into MSMEs. Number B, augment the role of MSMEs in Make in India initiative. Number C, increase the role of MSMEs in disaster management related activities. Number D, promote the participation of MSMEs in the manufacturing of defense equipment. So the correct answer is A. So it's A. Support increased flow of finance into MSMEs. The World Bank and the Government of India recently signed the $750 million agreement for the MSME Emergency Response Program to support increased flow of finance into the hands of micro, small, and medium enterprises, that is MSMEs, severely impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Hence, option A is the correct answer. The World Bank's MSME Emergency Response Program will address the immediate liquidity and credit needs of some 1.5 million viable MSMEs to help them withstand the impact of the current shock and protect millions of jobs. This project will support the government in providing targeted guarantees to incentivize NBFCs and banks to continue lending to viable MSMEs to help sustain them through the crisis. The World Bank Group, including its private sector arm, the International Finance Corporation (IFC), will support the government's initiatives to protect the MSME sector. Now let's come to the next question. Question number 98. With reference to winter diesel, a term recently seen in the news, consider the following statements. Number 1, it is a specialized fuel designed for high altitude and low temperature reasons. Number 2, it has a high viscosity and sulfur content. Number 3, in India it has been developed by the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So which of these statements given above are correct? So the correct answer is B. That is 1 and 3 only. 1 and 3 only. That is, it is specialized fuel designed for high altitude and low temperature reasons. Number 3, in India it has been developed by the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So statement 1 is correct. Winter diesel is a specialized fuel that was introduced by IOCL last year specifically for high altitude reasons and low temperature reasons such as Ladakh, where ordinary diesel can become unstable. Statement 2 is not correct. Winter diesel, which contains additives to maintain lower viscosity, can be used in temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius, and that, besides a low pour point, it had higher ketane rating. And indicator is the combustion speed of diesel and compression needed for ignition, and it has a lower sulfur content, which would lead to lower deposits in engines and better performance. Statement 3 is correct. State-owned Indian Oil Corporation (IOC), which is the largest oil marketing company in the country, has sought approval from the Directorate General of Quality Assurance (DGQA) of the Armed Forces to approve winter diesel that is said to be usable at temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius. Hence, option B is the correct answer. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 99. With reference to Hemchandra Vikramaditya, consider the following statements. Number 1, he was an advisor to Islam Shah, the son of Sher Shah Shuri. Number 2, he became the ruler of Delhi by defeating Akbar's forces. Number 3, he was defeated and killed in the Second Battle of Panipat against Akbar. So he was defeated and killed in the Second Battle of Panipat against Akbar. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So, Samrat Hemchandra Vikramaditya or Hemu was a Hindu emperor in Delhi by virtue of defeating Akbar or Humayun's army in battle for Delhi. Hemu belonged to Rewari in present-day Haryana, who earlier was an advisor to Sher Shah Suri's son, Islam Shah, from 1545 to 1553. Hemu had won 22 battles as Prime Minister and Chief of Army of Islam Shah from 1553 to 1556 to quell the rebellion by Afghan rebels against the Sur regime. Hence, statement 1 is correct. At the time of Humayun's death in January 1556, Hemu had just quelled a rebellion in Bengal, killing the Bengal ruler Muhammad Shah in the war. He made his intentions of winning Delhi for himself known to his commanders. He then started a campaign, winning battles throughout northern India. When he attacked Agra, the commander of Akbar's forces in Agra fled without fighting. Hemu marched towards Delhi and stationed his forces outside the city at Tughlakabad. On October 6, 1556, the army encountered Mughal resistance. After a fierce fight, Akbar's forces were ousted and Tardi Beg, the commander of the Mughal forces, escaped, allowing Hemu to capture Delhi. Around 3,000 Mughals were killed. Hemu was crowned at Purana Killa on October 7, 1556 and established Hindu rule in North India after 350 years of Muslim rule and was bestowed the title of Samrat Hemchandra Vikramaditya. Hence statement 2 is correct. According to Abul Fazl in Akbarnama, Hemu was preparing for an attack on Kabul and made several changes in his army. Developments in Delhi and Agra disturbed the Mughals at Kalanur in Punjab. Many Mughal generals advised Akbar to retreat to Kabul as Mughal forces may not face Hemu's might, but Bairam Khan decided in favor of war. Akbar's army marched towards Delhi. On November 5th, both armies met at the historic Second Battle of Panipat, where 30 years earlier Akbar's grandfather Babur had defeated Ibrahim Lodi in what is now known as the First Battle of Panipat. So Hemu was himself commanding his forces from atop an elephant. It seemed Hemu was on a winning track and Akbar's army would rout. Suddenly, in the midst of the contest, an arrow reached Hemu's eye and, piercing the socket, came out at the back of his head, and he became unconscious. Not seeing Hemu, Hemu's army was in disarray and defeated in the ensuing confusion. Several hours after the war ended, dead Hemu was located and captured. On January 24, 1556, the Mughal ruler Humayun died in Delhi and was succeeded by his son, that is Akbar. Kalanur was only 13 years old. So Akbar was only 13 years old. On February 14, 1556, Akbar was enthroned as the king. At the time of his succession to the throne, the Mughal rule was confined to Kabul, Kandahar, parts of Delhi, and Punjab. Akbar was then campaigning in Kabul with his guardian, Bairam Khan. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Now, let's come to the last question, that is question number 100. It is a tax on activities that create socially harmful externalities. It is meant to discourage activities that impose a net cost of production onto third parties and society as a whole. These taxes can also create more efficiency in an economy, especially when the tax covers the cost of the external damage. It creates the true cost of producing the good or services. So, which of the following taxes is best described in the passage given above? So, the correct answer is B. That is Pigovian tax. So, it's not Tobin tax, it's not wealth tax, it's not capital gains tax. So, the correct answer is Pigovian tax. So, a Pigovian or so a Pigovian tax is a tax on activities that create socially harmful externalities. And externality is an activity that creates a negative effect on others in a society, but not necessarily the person who does that activity. Pigovian taxes were named after English economist Arthur C. Pigou, a significant contributor to early externality theory. The Pigovian tax is meant to discourage activities that impose a net cost of production onto third parties and society as a whole. According to Pigou, negative externalities prevent a market economy from reaching equilibrium when producers do not internalize all cost of production. These adverse effects might be corrected, he contended, by levying taxes equal to the externalized cost. A popular example of the Pigovian style text is a text on pollution. Pollution from a factory creates a negative externality because nearby or impacted third parties bear part of the cost of pollution. Pigovian taxes discourage behaviors that create negative externalities. In situations where it does not, it raises revenues to help those affected by the externality. For example, the gasoline tax reduces driving while funding highway maintenance. Pigovian taxes can also create more efficiency in an economy, especially when the text covers the cost of the external damage it creates, the true cost of producing the good or service. The business then decides whether it is worth the extra cost. Indian examples of Pigovian tax include carbon tax, that is Clean Environment Cess, levied at a rate of rupees 400 per ton on coal. Supreme Court mandated environment compensation charge on commercial vehicles entering Delhi, etc. A Tobin tax is a tax on all spot conversions of one currency into another. It was suggested by James Tobin. It was originally intended to penalize short-term financial round-trip excursions into another currency. Now let's come to wealth tax. So wealth tax is a tax levied on the value of held assets. It is applicable on a variety of assets like cash, bank deposits, shares, fixed assets, personal cars, assessed value of real property, pension plans, etc. Next is capital gains tax. So it is levy assessed on the positive difference. So the capital gains tax is a levy assessed on the positive difference between the sale price of the asset and its original purchase price. So for the 100th question, the correct answer is B, that is Pigovian tax. So that's all guys. See you in my next video. Bye.